Losing is learning. And so when you've gotten to that level, you've lost and learned a lot, which creates humility. Welcome to the Undeniable Mentality Podcast, where we seek out wisdom and empowerment spiritually, physically, and mentally. Today, guys, we're coming at you from the Greatness Factory in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, home of the one and only Coach Michael Burt. I got my man Taylor, the Pro Duncan, with us, as always. Taylor holds a couple of different records, one of which we'll share today. He's the only player in Wisconsin football history to take his helmet off and throw it at a fan.
That's not true.
That is true.
That's
you
not
told
true.
me that.
I never told you that.
I thought you did.
Starting off a podcast with a bunch of lies, not the move.
Why not?
Just saying.
Or was it you took down an entire deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's? Or was it
done that
Giordano's?
multiple times.
Okay.
Gino's East.
Gino's East.
Not sponsored.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Anyways, today we've got a very special guest on the show with us. He has been my trainer for 8 years. He's the director of training at Chadwick's Fitness out of Cool Springs, Tennessee. Very proud of this man because over the last 8 years he has turned into one of the premier sports performance coaches in the country. He has a significant amount of MLB players that come to him in the off season with some pretty big names that we can't share, and actually he probably doesn't even share with me. So Zack Lannan, welcome, man.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Very glad to have you on this show. I mean, dude, check it out.
I know, this is cool. You got the setup.
This is a great setup.
Bro, we've been talking about this podcast because he and I train a lot. And, you know, a lot of the things we talk about, like, why do you train me anymore, is one of them.
Some things we'll just never know the answers to.
I wonder it all the time.
Well, he looked at me the other day and he goes, well, I'm a good man. Mm-hmm. And I get a tax deduction from the government.
This is definitely charity work.
Micah told me like a loophole, and so we just kept you on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But, dude, I mean all that. Very proud to see the man that you've turned into. Recently married to his beautiful wife, Lindsay. We call her.
Very beautiful. Did he say beautiful?
I did say.
He did.
We call her Lindsay Cash Money Lannan.
She's now Lannan.
She is.
So
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
How weird is that?
I think it took a couple weeks, but then it was like, okay, this is cool. It has a nice ring to it.
It's so awesome, man. But you know, with what we're talking to with Undeniable Mentality, you know, which is the 5 pillars: spiritual, physical, mental, personal, professional. Zack is definitely what I would say an expert in the physical aspect of it, talking to a number of things that Taylor and I have talked about in the past, and he just brings a way deeper understanding of these things, working with, you know, everything from, you know, professional business people to professional athletes, the things they have in common, and typically that applies to the mental side of things and how they approach things, all the way down to, you know, we talk about point of diminishing returns. You know, there's a lot of athletes that overtrain, which people don't talk about that a lot. We talk a lot about nutrition. He has helped us implement a fitness routine into our engineering firm Alliance. And now we're implementing a nutrition thing, which the nutrition's been a lot harder to kind of get them on board with, which we fully expected. But he has just a very impressive background that he's accumulated in a very short time. And I will add this, Zack played baseball at Belmont. And so
I was on the team.
Well, I thought you said that the coach called it, like, what was he nicknamed? Lannan Lasers?
That was batting practice.
But he said, what was it? He said lasers.
Lannan Lasers.
Lannan Lasers.
Left bench.
Yeah, well, I played that at Wisconsin.
I was an outfielder. I was moderately fast, had a decent arm, could hit the ball hard, but I couldn't do them all at the same time, and who knew where any of them were going. So that's kind of how my baseball career fizzled. But that was a good time in my life.
Yeah, there's some really good stories there, which I won't share today. But after going to his wedding and hearing some of the stories, it gave me a deeper appreciation for this man. And You know, some of them referred to him as like a, what was it, a Nordic Viking, I think was one of the stories.
You know, their thoughts are their own.
Yeah.
So we'll go with that.
Yeah. And, you know, so to that point, not only does he preach it, he's lived it, and he's been around, he even played with men who are in the professional, they're in the MLB now. So, you know, I kind of touched on this in the intro, but just kind of wanted to ask you, you know, to that point, when it comes to professional athletes, you know, ones that stay in the MLB rank, you know, to professional businessmen or businesswomen, professional women athletes, whatever, what are some of the common traits that you have really seen? And, you know, I'm sure there's probably 20, but what are maybe 3 or 5 of them?
One that would kind of shock a lot of people that I actually was talking to a client this morning about is how they were raised. Like you asked, so one of the things that I do with a lot of the guys that come in.
Taylor, that puts you out.
Yep, I'm out.
Is I try and get down to like how their parents treated them growing up. Just because, like, you know, I don't know if my kids at some point down the road want to be professional athletes, whatever I just want them to pursue excellence. And so the first thing that I really uncover with a lot of these people that are high-level performance, be it, like you said, mental, physical, spiritual, of the 5 pillars, from the physical side, it tends to be like how much their parents contributed to their success. Yeah. That's different across the board. So I've not had one scenario that's kind of been the same for everybody, not one common like thing that I've seen. I think how they carry themselves just in general, you know, not necessarily, like they don't change much. They might wear many hats, but they're kind of consistent with who they are. I always try and be as consistent as I can. Yeah.
I believe in how you do anything is how you do everything.
Exactly, yeah.
And that mentality I'm sure you see in a professional athlete is how they treat a lot of the rest of their life.
Dude. They're obsessive about their trade, their trade. You know, we got guys, so we got a place next door to Chadwick's indoor facility they can go in and hit, and we have a deal worked out with them, and they'll go in there and, you know, in college, you guys know, it's kind of rep after rep after rep. Like, you got a big team, you're trying to get in there. When you got these guys who are, like, the best in the world at hitting a baseball, going in there, and they'll hit one ball and they'll sit there and talk for 20, 30 seconds about that one particular swing, and then they'll take another rep. And, I mean, they probably take in total 50 reps. They'll be over there for 45 minutes. Yeah. So that type of obsession over excellence, over refining your skill, even though you're the best of the best. You got kids coming out of the DR who they grew up not going to school but playing baseball.
Dude, they would kill somebody for an opportunity.
And when you got that kind of fire behind you, you gotta refine your stuff.
Yeah, so, man. Well, that's one thing that I always talk with and have dealt with in my own life to that point on that obsessiveness. And yeah, it can get to a point where it's too much, right? But there's a lot of people, like with my personality, and you two know it, like deep down, and where there was a time period where people were like, bro, why do you want to be that like much? Why do you want to go that hard? And I listened to it because I thought that was just like, well, maybe I am too much. And although there are a lot of things wrong with me, it did hold me back for a long time, which then created anxiety because I was living outside of my integrity. And, you know, you talked about how they kind of walk in their life, but would you say that it's kind of combination, the ones that really make it, it's a combination of a lot of confidence and humility. It's like a really good combination of they know they can do it, but they also have the humility to know that they failed at it, they worked hard. There's just a lot of things there that just create a good balance in their mental approach.
Yeah, I think, you know, the saying, if you want to go far, or if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yeah. Like, you need coaches in your life to help you uncover the things about you that you don't have the introspective ability to uncover on your own. A lot of these guys, they do have stories of like people, like influential people in their lives who contributed to that. What I see as being a combination of kind of like what you said, there's a continuum there. It's not necessarily like they stick to one or the other. There is humility involved, yes, from a coachability standpoint. But there's also, you know, like I said, that obsession of just the grind day to day, it never stops. Like you think of a baseball season being a fairly long season where you got a high concentration of games. Like they have to be on their A game. I mean, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish.
Yeah.
Like, and you've got tons of times where you might not have your best stuff for the first half of the season, and that all-star break was well needed, and you come in and you just gas it up, and that changes the trajectory of the entire team season. So especially with team sports, humility for sure, especially in baseball when it's a failing sport. Like, you know, like you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you're a Hall of Famer. So
and I think the humility comes because they just never stop. And you know, a lot of people think that losing is failure, and I have changed and pivoted on my thought process on that. Losing is learning. And so when you've gotten to that level, you've lost and learned a lot, which creates humility. And it also creates an inner confidence, because we talk about this all the time. Where does self-confidence come from? It comes from telling yourself you're going to do something and then doing it.
Well, it's about doing it, right?
It's about doing it, because if you had a friend who told you all the time, hey, I'm going to do this, and then they don't do it, do you have confidence in that friend? No. Well, you're that friend. So self-confidence, the essence of it literally comes from just that one thing. And it could be anything. And, you know, it's like with the kids. We were talking about this the other day. Just make your bed. Start by making your bed in the morning and then doing it. And then it just starts your day off with momentum. Yeah,
it was William McRaven, the Make Your Bed book.
Oh, dude, the naval guy.
Yeah, former Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Admiral, I might be butchering that, but he's...
No, he was.
I read it. I've read that book. I actually gave that book to one of our staff members at Chadwick's recently, who I could just tell was kind of like, you know, not struggling, but just needed that edge back a little bit. I was like, dude, read this book. You can read it in one day. And it, like, his whole point is, you know, make your bed in the morning. If that's the first thing you do. Then no matter what kind of day you've gone through, at the end of the day, you still have a made bed to come back home to. So it's like the past self treating the future self properly. But 100%. You had reminded me of a story, actually, that I had this last off season with one of our pitchers. We just kind of have these questions every year, and one of them this year was, you know, I was a former D1 athlete. Like I said, I wasn't the best, but I told him,
lasers, hey, man, baby. That's all I'm saying.
If you're throwing the ball and like getting me to try and hit it, I'm gonna hit it.
Has anybody seen Major League? The man Serrano. It was like this. Straight ball, I hit it very much.
Yes.
Curveball.
Yeah, there was when it came down to being competitive, that wasn't my thing. But anyway, so in that regard, I just posed a question. I didn't know how much this was going to piss him off, like in a fun way. But I was like, all right, you give me a couple batting practices, 5 or 6 days of batting practice, just to find the groove again. It's been 10 years since I've hit a baseball, and what are the odds? Like, you give me 10 at bats against you. What do you think I make contact? He goes, 0. So to answer your question, he was like that quick on the spot with that answer. And I was like, all right, my man's confident. He's also a starting pitcher for an MLB team. Like, I'm going to take his word for it. And just after playing catch with him, I could see why, because this fastball was like a left-handed slider, or a right-handed slider, because he's a lefty. And I was just like moving 96 miles an hour.
So you're telling me he didn't even give you like a Dumb and Dumber
He didn't make me feel good in that moment.
So you're saying there's a chance.
So you're saying that they're like, okay.
No, I said it might have even been 100 at-bats. I can't remember what it was, but it was within a half a second. Like, he had already known the question that was coming out of my mouth.
I'm sure he's gotten it from plenty. I'm sure guys like me would be like, I bet you I can get a couple of hits off you. And he's like,
trying to do the hardest thing in sports.
Yeah, stop wasting my time.
And it literally is one of the hardest things in sports.
This is also a guy who's dealt with adversity. I mean, every year in baseball you deal with something, and his has been just, you know, a little more injury ridden from just mechanical stuff. But he's lost a lot, but he's also in the position that he's in because he's won a lot. So it's like he's got the confidence to persevere when he's in a spot of experiencing like those, not humiliating moments, but moments that teach you humility.
Winning and losing, I think, is so important. It's what creates an undeniable mentality. Is you are always putting
good plug, man. I like what you're doing there.
That is sponsored. You know, is this idea of being in a winning and losing environment every day in everything you do.
Yes.
I think a lot of people think that's, you know, maybe it's our school system, right? If you just show up and you're going to get a C, you're going to be okay. But you have to understand that everything, every test you take, everything you do, you win and you lose in all of it. And it's okay. It's okay. You'll have, just like in baseball, you'll lose 7 out of 10 and you'll win 3 out of 10 and you make the Hall of Fame because of it. That's like the proverbial they talk about. But you're always in winning and losing every single day. When we go to Chadwick's, you can win and lose. If I wanted to get 225 for 4 reps or whatever it is, I either will get it or I won't. And if I lose, it's okay. Now I've just got to learn. But if I do that all the time, I will perfect myself, not necessarily pitching a baseball, but I'll keep getting better as a person. My mentality will be in a winning and losing mindset all the time.
Yes. Well, and 2 points to that. Number one, so let's talk about real quick, because I think especially when you're younger, it's hard for a kid or a teenager or a high school kid, and I'll use one of our kids for an example, to correlate the connection between discipline in your regular day life, which a lot of people kind of use discipline as a bad word, and I'm like, bro, discipline means that you care. Discipline means that if you're being disciplined by that person, and we're not talking about like from an evil, angry position, that just means they care about you. But let's talk about how discipline in your life can transition into sports performance or whatever. Now, I was with one of the kids the other night. We were driving home from a game, and we were talking about when you're at the plate and your approach to an at bat, and the conversation was, sometimes your emotions kind of take over when you're at bat, and you want to do something, or you get excited because you can hammer this person who's throwing to you. The velocity's perfect, the way it looks to your eye, whatever. And if you let your emotions overtake you, then you'll get overexcited, swing too early, swing too hard. But if you have the ability to discipline your emotions, in that instance, kind of like, what's that movie, For the Love of the Game, when he's like, clear the mechanism?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love
Perfect
that.
Game.
With Kevin Costner.
Perfect Game.
For the Love of the Game.
Is it?
Yeah, Perfect Game is the freaking baseball tournament stuff. But he did throw a perfect game. Game. But clear the mechanism.
Need to refresh my
winning and
1980s
losing
movies.
right now.
Oh, yeah.
Who won that one?
Hey, well, no, it's serious. But the whole point is like, if you have discipline in your life, that's the same muscle that we're talking about when you're at the plate. So what I mean by that is when we're talking about small things, because it's all a mental muscle, whether you're sticking to your routine in the morning, whether you're making your bed, whether you're doing that, and then when you get it to the plate, because in the mornings, dude, you don't feel like doing that. I don't feel like doing a podcast with Taylor. I do it because I know it's good. I'm kidding, man. Sorry, I love Taylor. I love giving him a hard time too. But he's just such a handsome fella. It's probably like jealousy. But let's talk about that real quick. I mean, when you look at some of your, most successful, we'll use that, which means they probably
athletes?
lost. Means they probably lost a lot. But your most successful athletes is discipline in their life, typically on par with how they're treating their sport, or is it one and the same? Have you seen a correlation with that at all?
Yeah. I mean, even though you got guys who are making millions of dollars, they're still choosing to spend their money on doing something extremely consistent that takes their time, that they view as important. It's like working out.
Yeah.
Like, it's no question that physical fitness is important in sports. Like, goes without saying. But the consistency that a lot of these guys, it's actually interesting because, shocker, but the more consistent the people are who come in are the ones who tend to propel the furthest into their sport. So consistency is a byproduct of discipline.
Yeah.
So I think with discipline's kind of a double-edged sword because you can take it too far, and that's when we start getting obsessive, right? It's kind of knowing what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So
what's the heart behind it? Yeah.
Yeah, having a clear vision of what it is that you want to accomplish. Okay, so you want to win the Cy Young. What's it going to take? That's a pretty lofty goal. What's it going to take to get you there? And who's also to say that the guy over here isn't just doing better? Like, so talent.
Yeah.
You know, that's another factor. So knowing what factors are at play while you're creating that regimen, instead of just jumping into what you saw Stan over here doing on TikTok, it's like knowing what you're capable of is important, you know? Everybody knows Stan.
Sure you work with more than just athletes, right? You work with plenty of just regular human beings and irregular human beings like Josh. And so
I own it.
So with a successful non-athlete, so someone who is successful in their career, do you see anything similar, and why do you think their physical fitness and getting into a place and being disciplined in their physical, why do you think that's an important part of what translates to their career, their success outside of gym?
I think a lot of it has to do with healthy body, healthy mind. I think intelligent people who tend to succeed understand that concept. You start looking at what's happening in the brain when you eat terrible, when you're just laying around not really doing anything. I think they understand that. They're smart people. Like, we all kind of know what's best for our health. It's whether or not, like you said, are we going to take action on that? Yeah. That's the golden question. It's a combination of that, just kind of knowing that this is something that they're supposed to do, but also when you talk about the regimen of working out, going outside your comfort zone. I know you're big on this. Like he always says, like, leave that out in the parking lot. Like, comfort zones don't belong in here. Yeah. Anytime you walk through those doors, I say we're going to provide value, and in some shape or form.
That's right.
But it might not be in the moment what you want, but you're going to experience the benefits of doing this. They also, I feel like, have that same mindset with how they work, how they interact with people. It's like a tough relationship or a tough conversation with an employee. It's not the most fun thing, but sometimes it's best for the health of the business instead of you.
Well, we talk about this a lot, and I think we talked about it last time we had a show, but what going to the gym and playing sports does is it gives you a controlled environment where you are going to be challenged without wrecking your life, so to speak, because in life, man, stuff that comes, you can't control it. You don't know where it's going to come from, and you don't know how big it's going to be. But in sports or at the gym, whether it's trying to hit a new, personal record or lifting a certain weight or just showing up consistently, that is a controlled environment to challenge you. And again, it points to that muscle you're trying to develop of getting outside of your comfort zone, sticking to a routine, sticking to the discipline and the things that you're telling yourself you're going to do. And we talk about it a lot because he's one of the best recruiters and promoters that I've met about what do we look for in young men and women that we're wanting to hire. And he's said it for years. They have a good sports background. The ones that we usually see do the best on out of 100 kids, 98% of them, if 98% of them played 4 years of high school sports, maybe transitioned to college, they are typically you're gonna have better odds of success with them because they know how to work hard. They don't just go 8 to 3 and just treat it like a job. It's a challenge. They compete. They work well with teams. Having said
many
that,
of them played left bench too. In high school. It wasn't that they were the best.
You got to learn other places to excel.
You do.
You got to be malleable.
And that's a whole other conversation about give your best. We talk about this with the kids. What's your dream? Well, it's this. I never laugh at them. I say, let's go get it. Yeah. Let's give it our best.
What did you tell me the other day? That if you told anybody else,
which one?
There's a lot of things.
We're not talking about.
You think this could change the world?
Yeah.
And like most people, when you say that, they're going to be like, come on, man, you know how big the world is? And I was like, yeah, like, let's go.
But it
like,
can't. In many ways, it can't.
Why would you stunt that mindset instead of, failing? Yeah. And because that's the thing is, even along the process, you're going to fail. But at the end of the day, if you start with the mindset of, this is probably a pipe dream, it probably won't happen, then guess what? It's not going to happen. If you go up to the plate and you're like, man, I've struck out 10 of my last 15 at-bats, you're going to strike out again. Like, trust me, I know. So.
Well, yeah, man. And I mean, the point on it is this too, is show up, give your best. And with our kids, I just tell them, look, I want you to learn how to completely devote yourself to being the best at something and learn what that feels like. And then let God take care of the rest. It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what people tell you you are or who you are. It matters what God tells you you are and what you know yourself to be. And then go give it your best. That right there is, it brings fulfillment. It brings just this sense of just, I'm here for a reason. It gives you a why. And so, as we go through Undeniable Mentality, we talk through it, we're trying to, I guess, light up the fact to parents, high school age kids, young professionals, college, kids in college, discover who you are. Don't be afraid to set a dream or a goal and just go after it. As long as it's in line with who you are.
Yeah.
Right? And when you do that, you don't fail. You just learn. And maybe you pivot in a different direction.
Yeah.
So so back to you mentioned these people and discipline, and we're talking about how sports has changed people and makes them a better employee or better entrepreneur or whatever it is. So and yes, this is a little bit sponsored. Next Level recruits for Alliance, right?
Yes.
And one of the big things we talk about when we're recruiting, when we're talking to someone, is what Josh and they've done at Alliance, and this is partly how we know Zach, and they're all interconnected here. But so Chadwick's, where you run Chadwick's, Josh brings his team there. It's no longer just Josh, because you've recognized you failed with him. He's not getting any stronger.
Yep.
But
zero strength, sir.
But maybe you could make his team stronger. So Josh brings his team over with you on both a nutrition and physical fitness, right? Or fitness, or whatever we want to describe it. What have you seen in how maybe they didn't have the sports background, maybe they did, but how that has translated into affecting, not only are they getting stronger in the gym, but how they're walking into the gym, or what they're saying to you about work, or from an outsider perspective, and then maybe you can say what you've seen with them at Alliance. How has fitness, being one of these 5 pillars, changed who they are outside of just, I now bench press 10% more?
Well, first we got to start getting some new doors because they keep kicking them in.
Yeah, man. And first of all, 10% is way too low, Taylor. It was more like 20.
20%.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, the first day they came in, we've been doing this for 11 months now. It'll be a year in April.
That's crazy.
I know. The first day they came in, they walk in and I could tell they were uncomfortable.
That first meeting they were uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh!
I walked in and I'm like sitting there, and I can talk in front of people, and I'm like getting some blank ass stares from a bunch of engineers, and I'm like, dude, do I need to speak in code? Like, will that help?
Right? Do I need a blueprint for you?
Yeah, but now it's way more comfortable.
Oh, dude, well, they're comfortable in a gym, and you got to remember, some of these people hadn't been in a gym since high school.
Years, yeah.
So I did. I walked in and I saw it, and I rounded them all up, and I said, listen, guys, just a quick word of advice. Comfort zone, it's out in the parking lot. Let's get started, and just try to tell them the reason you feel this way is because you're out of your comfort zone. And guess what?
Yep.
That's a beautiful thing to be. It's hard. They're a high, steady person. Steady people, they love comfort zones.
Yep.
They, it's like Mike is like a 92 out of 100 on the steady. Getting her out of her routine, dude, she's more stubborn than me. The difference between me and her is I tell you when I'm being stubborn. She doesn't. So, to that point, though, I think I want you to speak to this. What we've seen out of them has been these small wins. Because most of the people, when they think of, I started working out, they've got Rocky in their head.
They think 1980s steroid era.
Yeah.
Running up the steps, and in a half hour,
Grunting.
they go from overweight to ripped, and that's just not how it goes.
No.
How long have we been training?
We're coming up on, I think it's 8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
And when I came to you, and I'm still broken, but
Hopeless.
I was about 240. give or take. I had just come off of just issues with anxiety and, drinking too much.
I saw that Jericho video.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. We're going to have that on the website once it gets posted up. And what I want to do with it, it's going to be fun. We're going to play it on our cinema, and we're just going to sit there and make fun of myself because I literally look like I have drank I'm probably about 7-8 beers in, and I've taken a horse tranquilizer. Hey, this is Jericho. I mean, it's so crazy.
Let me tell you about what we do here.
Just dead-eyed. But, we've seen it in small increments, small like stories from Steven about, what his wife was talking to him about, stuff like, I guess, William. That's one we've seen big changes out of. What have you seen?
Well, I mean, I always allow myself to be surprised by people because, like I said, you never know what fire is burning inside of them. What's interesting is with your group, I was wrong on a few of them where it was like I'm standing in front of this group and, like as I'm a coach, I can kind of pick around and see who's the most interested. And I'm like, who I thought was going to be the most like consistent, it was actually like inverted. It was reversed. So the people who I have found need this the most are the ones who need that consistency. They need that discipline in their life, and absolutely it'll carry over into their work life too. And family life, I expect as well.
Yeah.
One of your guys makes comment all the time about how his wife like makes comments about how he's looking, and I can tell that's giving him confidence. But I was shocked that this level of, I don't want to necessarily call it discipline, but like just acceptance of, hey, I'm going to get better, has really influenced a lot of them. And when I say like kicking doors down, like obviously that's, they're not doing that, but they're walking in there now, they're confident, they feel like they belong somewhere. I can tell they're having conversations that aren't work related, which is big, because it's like I feel like as a team, you still get down to, on a baseball team, you talk more about baseball. Like you talk about life, you talk about girlfriend problems, whatever. And now I hear these conversations, like today they were talking about golf or frisbee golf. I was eavesdropping, but something completely separate from Alliance.
It's been huge for the culture.
And I can tell, I'd speak to that.
The culture is just, it's been phenomenal for the culture. Yeah. And I mean, what you're talking about is it's just kind of become a way of life, which is what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think so many corporations will do that, and I've even heard and talked to CEOs of really large companies about if you implement some sort of, we get you a pass to the local fitness center, then our health insurance rates get cut by 3% or whatever it is. But this is completely different. What Alliance has done isn't how do I improve a health insurance rate? It's how do I come alongside my team and recognize that these 5 pillars, physical being one of them, physical affects your mental. If your mental is really strong because of your physical, that'll affect your professional. If your professional is great, you can work on spiritual, and they all can start working together, and because of it, I'll get better civil design out of them, which is awesome. They'll be better coworkers with the person next to them who's going to be happier. My team will stay together longer.
Oh, yeah.
They'll go home, their wives will, or husbands will have a stronger home and marital life because she'll be, or like you said, building him up. His confidence goes up. Then he becomes a better dad. And it's all works together because they are going into Chadwick's twice a week with you, and then they go work with Josh. And it's so amazing to see because we know, because we've recruited some of these folks over to Josh. And hearing them talk about...
And I either run them off or they love us, just FYI.
Yeah, but just hearing their experience and how, when we're talking to someone new on the phone, we're like, they do workouts together as a team. I think a lot of people think, they get me a pass to the local fitness center.
Yeah, no.
But that's not what this is. The point of this is way bigger than that.
And I remember it was one of our guys came down after, it's probably about a weekend. This was in April, May, something like that. And he said, we were up there talking, and what we've realized is, how much you guys, and I'm not trying, this is just a conversation that I was told, how much that this actually tells us more about how much you care about us, succeeding and being healthy, because anybody can pay you a little extra, which we do that too. And we got some cool stuff coming right now, okay, that's going to be tied to this program, Undeniable Mentality and Undeniable University. I mean, really cool stuff coming. And it goes to the point of you have to have a why. Everybody has to have a why, even if it's a reward in some shape or form, in their love language, because everybody's got a different way they view reward. But, this has developed a culture in our company. And I've told some of our more experienced employees that who don't maybe feel like they're where they need to be fitness, but I always remind them, how much did you work out in 2023? None. How much did you work out last year? I can't even count.
Yeah.
So, they were upset about maybe missing a week, or that they haven't lost as much weight as they think, which is why we launched the nutrition. Nutrition's way harder. Nutrition dives into addictions.
It's emotional.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Nutrition versus fitness. Which one would you, if
You keep jumping me.
Do you
want to
know the answer to this question?
I want to hear it.
Well,
this
all right.
is actually
So let's go broad on this. Let's go
broad.
broad on this, because we're going to do it. And this was. Did you memorize this?
No, I'm just better than you.
Photographic.
That's not true at all. Scrub that. Anyways, all right. So let's talk real quick about. We kind of spoken on the intro about point of diminishing returns. Now, with me, it's always, you got to hold me back, because I remember that one day I was like, I come in and I go, I think I want to start doing 2 days on Fridays. And he goes, after he slapped me,
I literally
don't ever
Continue.
say that again, because what do you recommend as far as what's the best type of workout? And what I mean by that is, we talk about upper push, lower pull, upper pull, opposite type training, how many times per week. And, then, let's just kind of go into what Taylor was talking about from a nutritional perspective. What have you seen work the best for most people?
For fitness, it's always funny because I don't really ask this question to people because it intimidates them. I've asked it to a few.
Well, you're an intimidating guy. It's really the mustache.
It's the mustache.
I'm going to tell you what, man, that thing is,
Hey, man.
I'm telling you, Magnum PI.
It was
Tom
honestly
Selleck
by
style.
request from Lindsay. So she loves the mustache. I'm like, you know what?
Bro, I love the mustache.
It's on my business card. So I feel like when people show up and they don't find a guy with a mustache, there's a little bit of disappointment involved. But
Zack the Stash Lannan.
hey, man.
Ooh, I
Screw
like that.
Lannan lasers. We're going different now.
Zack the Stash Lannan. I like it. It's
It's
going in
kind
my
of a new
contacts.
thing. It was like big in the 70s and 80s.
It's
and
making a
now
comeback.
It's back.
Yeah.
It's the.
I saw
it's
Van Dyke the other day.
millennial crowd.
All I know
that's-
is
not the
I know
old
where it
folks.
started. You know what I mean? Sorry. Go ahead.
For fitness, the question that, if you really just want to think about this, is what can you do 3 times a week for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Not for 3 months, not for 4 months, and that's what I had the conversation with your people was, this isn't a 12-month or a 12-week program. It's not a 12-month program. This is a program that's designed to last for the tenure of your experience with Alliance. And I said, ditch the goals of losing a certain amount of pounds. And I said, you stick with me for 2 years, you're going to start seeing changes physiologically, 100%. Guarantee it if you show up and do the work and don't totally wreck it on where I'm about to go
Most
with
people
nutrition.
don't understand the time frame involved.
And that's the problem, because what people ask is, well, how many times a week should I be coming in? What types of movements should I be doing? It's like, listen, that's kind of level 2. Level 1 is what can you commit to time-wise? That's the starting point. Because recently I had to change my workout times to early in the morning because I'm getting busier and I want to allocate the kind of pre-family training for myself is, when we have a kid, I want to be able to do the things that I still love doing without having to sacrifice elsewhere. So I wake up an hour and a half earlier, go do my workout. That for me is something now where I'm like, yeah, I could do that forever.
Yeah.
That's starting point. The second part of that is, okay, now that you're at that point, which is what most people struggle to get to, then you start looking at, dosing certain loads, because that's what it is. It's a dose. Like, it's a dosage. When you go to the doctor and they give you a pain prescription, it would be kind of stupid to take more than what they give you, because you run the chance of overdosing. So strength and conditioning can be the same way. Fitness can be the same. Anything in life can be the same, right? So I've always ascribed to the minimum effective dose, which I call MED for short. This is big in our industry. It's the question is, why would you do more than what you need to do to achieve your desired result? And like I said earlier, the key word is desired result. Yeah. If you don't have a super strict timeline, then again, it's kind of like we can be a little more lackadaisical with that.
And I'm just real quick to that almost kind of tells you the mentality of most
100%.
People when they're like wanting to work.
That's a deniable mentality.
Yeah.
It's not undeniable.
That's terrible. Stop.
I like it. I liked it.
Don't support him. Do not encourage him. It's like
I'm a fan of excellence.
It's like a gremlin. Okay? Don't get him wet. Yep. No sunlight, and don't feed him after midnight. Yep. Okay? But it also tells you that they're viewing this as a kind of a short-term, get this knocked out so I can get here and spike the football type thing. Dude, that don't exist.
Everybody that came in when we had those onboarding meetings asked, like, what's an expected time frame? And I'm like, ditch the time frame.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about it. Now, when you come to Chadwick's, we sell you on 12 weeks of programming.
Yeah.
I have almost 0 people that do 12 weeks. I have one woman who does it. Her husband also trains with me, but she comes back every year, and she kind of does it seasonally, right?
Zach used to be a drug peddler, and that's how you get him hooked.
Yeah.
Just
back when I had the Toyota Corolla.
There's a little freebie.
Yeah. Living little breadcrumbs.
Yeah, man. Just get him.
So to go along with that, it has nothing to do with the 12 weeks. We actually do 12 weeks because sometimes it takes that amount of time to get people to realize that this is something that's even important in their lives.
Yeah.
And you made an excellent point earlier, is to be a better father. What was the first thing that I said about those MLB players that I train? The first thing that I see is they have a pretty supportive family life when they're growing up.
Yeah.
So it's, when you talk about building a culture within your business, it's okay, well, now what is your business putting into the world? And that could be, you don't even know that you're having an impact on somebody in sales' kid who's watching their dad work out 3 times a week and starting to take notes.
Wild Bill, what did he say?
Wild Bill, man.
He's had both his sons come up to him and note to him how, I guess, just proud of him that they are.
That's the word.
And, that builds him. And you don't think that's impacting them?
Oh, 100%.
Because, as we know, man, and you will soon, because we know Lindsay's
chomping at the bit.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Well, with that kind of mustache, bro, what do you expect?
Yeah.
But with kids, they see what you do more than what you say. And Taylor and I like to talk a lot, too. But they pay attention to what we do.
More caught than taught.
Yep. For sure.
So to continue off that is, what's your why? Because if I don't get the answer to that question within the first few sessions, it's kind of like, listen, I don't know if I'm the right person. Like, you're trying to go, and you can tell who those people are. And
they're getting ready for spring break.
We got a lot of really great people who come to Chadwick's, and then there's sometimes you'll get the one who's trying to lose 20 pounds in 3 weeks. It's like, listen, there's a place down the street that'll give you a pill and starve you. You go on a 600 calorie diet, and they'll do it for you. I won't name names.
If I could get the name of that,
can you do that? Can you do that every single day? For the rest of your life? The answer is no.
No.
Why? Because you'll be malnourished. You'll literally, your metabolism will be shot. There's all these physiological things that'll start happening.
Yep.
So when we look at what can you do consistently for the rest of your life, because that's, unless you're an athlete, obviously it's, they're not going to be playing baseball their whole lives. So there's kind of a finish line there that we can look at, and we got to train a little more aggressively, because their desired goal, like I said, is to try and beat the pipeline down in Central America that's playing baseball instead of going to school.
And their why is very strong.
Yeah, and then after that, you can start getting into the science realm, which is where you start looking at hiring professionals. Because I know tons of people, you could come to me for 12 weeks and not get anywhere close to the results that Stan, our guy, is going to go to Planet Fitness and get in 1 year. Just because he's being consistent, going in, looking at the descriptions on the machines, be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that, and But that's the thing is
And
that's
it's
how this
completely
works.
wrong.
Everybody wants
Poor
to think.
Stan. What did Stan do?
Oh, Stan sucks.
Stan, if you're listening, sorry, but
I'm sure there's a few Stans
there might
out there
be a
that
few
are
Stans.
awesome.
And if your name's
Karen,
not
like,
Stan,
the two,
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah.
They
maybe
feel
you are
personally
Stan.
attacked right now, but listen, I'm sure there's some awesome Stans out there. But I mean, to your point, the first thing is just start.
Start.
Right? Just start.
Make your bed.
Yes. And then kind of boil it down to a routine that you can just kind of week to week do. Whether
that's
it's
not
2 days
popular.
a week or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
That doesn't make a great TikTok video, now does it?
It doesn't, because guess what? All of what we're talking about here is what people don't want to hear.
Yeah.
People want that magic, which we're actually getting close to that now. That's a tangent, but there's with what's going on with like the Ozempic and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they're
the
starting
the
to,
GLP-1s, whatever.
they're
I know.
starting to make a better case now with some clinical trials. So I'm not gonna like dog on it.
But the problem with that is it doesn't fix the mentality part.
That's the whole
mentality
issue.
part.
Is it doesn't fix the.
gives you the quick
Now
fix.
you're creating a bunch of superficial people
Yeah.
that don't ever build anything
Well, it's
substantial.
profitable. Yeah.
It's profitable, but
companies out there know that people want that easy fix. They want that instant gratification.
They do, man.
But if you can implant in somebody's mind the fact that it's going to take a little bit to get here,
Mm-hmm.
just trust me and show up and listen to what I tell you. I'm not an expert. Don't listen to me, but they will start to inch. Like you'll start over time. You just kind of look back and you're like, man, 8
did
years
I
ago.
used to really think that?
Let me ask you this: 8 years ago or 8 years from now, which one sounds like it's a longer time?
Wait a minute. What day
Like
is
if
it?
I ask you,
I was like,
What day is it?
wait.
It's
I
Friday.
feel like
I'm gonna go with B.
we just went into a
Wait a minute. What did you just
vortex.
ask me? I zoned out there for a second, but it's Friday, so I'm gonna go with the second.
It is Friday. No, like if I said 8 years ago or 8 years from now, which one sounds like it's a longer
8 years from
duration?
now.
8 years from now sounds
the right-
longer.
It's been a long
Okay, good, I
8
got
years
that
for me.
right.
It's been a long 8 years for me. I'm really struggling
And
with
this-
this one.
8
Sorry,
years
I
from
don't want
now
to get us off
feels a lot
tangent
longer.
here.
I get what he's saying.
This comes down
I
to
know
how
what he's saying.
our minds perceive adversity, perceive the when we're learning humility.
Mm-hmm.
Is because when you talk about something like, and I actually adjust the language that I use as a coach a lot of times, because coaching is about getting into somebody else's head and manipulating them
Yeah.
to a very
In a healthy
beneficial
way.
For
standpoint.
positive purpose.
Yep. And I even tell them up front, I'm like, I'm going to put information in your mind that wasn't there before, and that's the definition of manipulation. I'm not trying to do it for my personal gain,
Not in a weird way.
because I know that if you do a good job, you're going to go out and tell people that this is what we do. But anyways, typically when you've gone through it, it seems like it was a lot shorter than if I said, hey, you're going to cross this bridge now.
And I've got a thought on that. I think because it all boils down to doubt.
Yeah.
If it's in the past,
Confidence.
there's no doubt because you've already experienced it. But if it's in the future, there's doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of unknowns, and people don't like unknowns.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, it's starting it, and it could be the Atkins diet. It could be whatever, and as you and I know, there's a specific person we're kind of thinking about right now when it comes to preconceived notions and being stubborn to stuff. But if you went through your 30s to
Childhood.
50s, childhood impacts, I mean, there's certain people that they try to work with on the nutrition side. It's clear there's some deep childhood stuff that happened because it
Anything
just doesn't
green.
make sense.
Green Skittles, kiwis, green apples, green beans, green Jello. I'm not kidding.
And so
And that's not even the weirdest that I've encountered. I wouldn't say weirdest. I would say like the most profound that I've encountered. Like you get some people that it's just like, this is going to be a tough nut to crack.
yeah.
But they can crack nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that too, it goes into that awareness thing of
Yeah.
knowing yourself so much. And so, when we talk about this is a conversation we have all the time because we're always trying to develop ways to incentivize our people at Alliance. That's really where it goes. We talk about our kids too, but just generally people as a whole have these preconceived notions about what fitness or working out should be, and a lot of it's based on what they saw in movies. I mean, if they saw Rocky out in the barn doing sit-ups and pushing up some wheelbarrow or something like that
Rocky
with five,
was on roids.
oh, bro, he was. And so you just have these preconceived things up here that don't allow you to be open to anything else. And see, this is the beautiful thing. And this is something else I was reading. I do read occasionally. A lot of pictures, Taylor.
I've seen it.
A lot of pictures.
He pretends to read. There was a book upside down. Once,
Coloring books.
I know. And I think it was a Robert Greene book. But, when the people are young, your brain, you're neurologically very flexible. And you take in and listen to all kinds of things because every option is an option. As you get older, you just get more and more neurologically inflexible on receiving new information. You get into comfort zones and patterns, which has really led us to targeting these high school young professionals because they're just going to be more prone to receive the information and act upon it, And so we're dealing with more than just working out. We're dealing with more than just nutrition. We're dealing with deep-seated, addictions to food, sugars, fats, how they're developing these foods these days. So to that point, when we're talking about parents who are bringing their young athletes or just their kids they're wanting to bring into the gym and get them a little bit more active, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you see with parents where you're like, you almost have to bite your tongue because they're so off into the woods a little bit?
What supplements should he be taking? Well, did you see the bag of Skittles and Sour Patch Kids? Supplements aren't your issue. That's number one. I can't tell you how many times, like, what protein powder do you recommend? I don't know, the one that grazes out in pastures and goes moo. That's probably the best one. I think,
as if from the standpoint they think that fixes everything.
They think that people are unwilling to a lot of times address the problem that's actually, maybe they're just blind. I mean, you go
I think they are, man.
I see a shift happening within health and
the Maha movement, right?
Yeah. So
yeah,
I
the Maha movement.
It's starting. I think you can only lie for so long before your lies start to fall apart. That's just
I love when people tell me that too. They're like, "Oh, Diet Coke's unhealthy." I'm like, you drank 15 beers last night and you're going to tell me my Diet Coke is my problem?
Yeah,
like, I work out 5 times a week. I eat a perfectly clean diet. I have a Diet Coke and you're going to say that's the problem?
Not only that, but Diet Coke now we're finding that the amount of aspartame you have to consume, it's like in the 200s per day. So it's like...
They like to attach to one idea and go,
because they saw it on TikTok.
Yeah, what protein does my kid take? Go back.
And by the way, when he gets in his deep Chicago accent, he's really getting fired up.
That's how you know it's coming.
That Diet Coke?
Like I said, you don't know what fire's down there, man. But no, I think so. From the fitness industry and performance, especially with parents wanting to do the best for their kids, it's like, first off, I appreciate the fact they're even asking questions.
Yeah.
Because some parents will just drop their kids off and just like run out, and they don't even know me. Yeah. So it's like, you haven't asked a question. I don't just throw information at you because I'm not gonna.
Well, they want you to fix everything.
Well, yeah, and I might recommend. I won't sit there and just, that's the pot calling the kettle black. It's,
right.
I have the things in my life, like I had Chipotle for dinner last night because it was easy and
sinner.
I love Chipotle.
You sinner.
Hey,
I like
but some parents will ask the supplements. Some parents will ask. This is probably my pet peeve. Is like he'll only listen to you. Like you've got to tell him. Like he's got to do this, this, and this. And it's like, that's what you want. Is that what he wants? Does your kid even want to play baseball? I've had a kid where literally I talked to the dad and I was like, listen, man, your kid doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to play sports.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and was like, oh, you could tell this guy's insecurities. And I was like, no, man, like I think the best thing for him right now is like let him decide.
Yeah.
I lost a client for that reason, but I think I increased their relationship a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. So I think parents wanting it too much is another big one. That's not necessarily a misconception, but that's like a misconception within your kid. Is like you're missing something within your kid. You're not having that conversation. You're not having that relationship that you should have. That's allowing them to feel like they can talk about things. Yeah. Because we do talk a lot in our sessions, as you know. He talks a lot in our sessions.
What? What? We talk about a lot of cool stuff,
I kind of just say,
everything from angels and demons to physics to I mean, comic books. I'm sure we've talked about everything.
A lot of
man.
talking, not much learning, but
That's the truth. Lord mercy, man.
I think because we do that, it's like I always tell people I'm a cheap therapist. Like, and, even in performance training, like we're here to go, we're here to work. There are rest intervals, and we're not just sitting around, looking around, twiddling our thumbs.
Yeah.
We're talking about some deep shit sometimes.
We are, man.
And I think when parents miss that mark, that's big. That's crucial.
Yeah.
I'm not a coach on how to have a better relationship with your kid. I'm not a parent, so I'm like the least qualified to answer on that. But when I see it, and I don't know what it is.
Oh, I know what it is. It's a lot of little things. It's trying to live vicariously through your
Vicarious
kid.
living, yeah.
It's being lazy and not getting up and getting in the gym yourself. So look, man. I have so many flaws, and I'm the first one to tell you all my stuff, so I'm not judging. This isn't from a judgmental place. I've been 240, which is heavy for me, But how can you sit there at 280 pounds, and I'm not talking about solid muscle, and then preach to your kid about eating healthy and lifting weights? Mm-hmm. Like we said earlier, your kids see what you do, not what you say.
Yeah.
And so you have an insecurity when they bring them to you. I want you to tell them because I know I'm not in a place to tell them.
Yeah.
If you want to change your kid's life, then you get your ass off the couch and you go do some work.
Yeah.
And you show them and you set the example.
When he gets fired up, you get the East Tennessee comes out.
Well, and that's what you want to tell them. But you're a very self-controlled man, and when we say, let me say this: when Lannan gets fired up, that's when you need to watch out. That's when the Viking comes out.
That's when I need to watch out. Okay. So those are the first, probably what I would say, biggest two that I see. As far as misconceptions, are we talking like just broad brushstrokes or
no, I think the
like
biggest mistakes and misconceptions they have, and you nailed it. I mean, let me ask you this. Have you had a parent come to you with a kid underage and ask you about,
Yes.
HGH or steroids?
I didn't know where he was going underage, and I was like,
going.
is this going to get illegal? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Steroids.
Yeah.
Like, this guy.
Hey, man, I'm going to stop you now.
I didn't know what you were saying.
Taylor leans in a little bit. He's like,
Taylor, I saw him kind of creeping. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say
Like,
it.
how does this fit in undeniable mentality?
this wasn't in the notes, man.
Well, it goes to the point of how bad parents, and I say bad, how much they have been fooled into worshiping the success of sports. It's no longer, look, we all battle trying to live vicariously through our kids and getting so, because I'm very competitive, and so you always battle when your kid maybe doesn't have a good at bat of you want them to win so bad. We all battle that. But as long as you're battling it and trying to grow out of it, dude, that's the best you can do. But people have moved to the point from using sports as a tool to teach your kids how to compete and how to overcome and be a character builder to, I worship this.
Well, think about it, dude. Like when you go to these perfect game showcases for David, you see it. You see parents. I mean, the whole setup.
Oh, I'm going to throw up.
You know what I would be interested in? I would be interested in going to those showcases and like if I had like a crystal ball and being able to like point to the 3 kids out of 6,000 that are going to play in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And so it's okay.
And even them, some of those will surprise you.
Yeah. It's like, why doesn't every single Little League World Series kid end up playing in the show? Why is it always like,
dude, there's been like 2.
Yeah.
One, I've told you that the one I played with years ago, and I think Will Clark.
There's been a couple,
maybe there's more than 2. There's
not a lot. There's maybe 2 to 5.
8 hours into it. If we get to the youth sports rabbit hole,
2 to 5.
But so my point
there hadn't been
is because the probability, and I'm going to get to kind of where I started here in a second too. The probability that your kid's going to play professional sports, not only that, make money playing professional sports, lifestyle money. League minimum $700,000. You spread that over the span of 5 years, and that's a good tenure.
Yeah.
You're making
$3.5
million for the rest of your life, plus the
you
5
do
years
math.
half tenured, which I think right now is like $285,000 a year. Once you turn 62.
Yeah.
So that's comfort. That's still those 3 kids. So when you have 800 kids walking around a ballpark and you see the dads and they're living vicariously through them, and it's like you're not asking yourself the question, what if he doesn't want to play professional sports? Or what if he doesn't make it? What are you teaching him in that moment? And I know you do well with your kids because, like, what did David say he wanted to be?
When? No. So
engineer. Or he was interested
just
in it?
changed his. He just kind of changed because ever since 5, we had this conversation when he was like 8. He goes, I want to play in the MLB, and then I want to work at Chick-fil-A. And I said, well, I said, instead of working at Chick-fil-A, why don't we own a Chick-fil-A? He goes, okay, I like that. Because all in his mind is he's thinking, I get to eat nuggets.
He takes his kids to fast food all the time.
Okay, back
Chick-fil-A's
then I
good.
did too. Back then I did.
Chick-fil-A is good. I do like Chick-fil-A.
If you're weak,
They got
if you're
good morals.
weak, hey,
Yeah.
if you're weak, I'm kidding. Chick-fil-A it's good if you get the grilled nuggets.
From a fast food standpoint, Chick-fil-A,
But-
I do think
That's
is
But-
another rabbit hole.
You know, here
Yeah.
recently he's kind of shifted that. I mean, he's 16 now too, and you know, I think he likes what we're doing and sees that. But his mind is really built for an engineer's mind.
Yeah.
It is. I mean. But yeah, he's recently changed it, wanted to go into engineering. He still has a dream of baseball, and I'm like, dude, go get it.
So that's the thing is to kind of go back to where earlier I mentioned. I'm going to come back to what parents do with their kids. Is we've had a handful of dads come in of these professional athletes.
Yeah.
And like not all at once. Like we don't have like a father-son workout day, but like they'll just come in because they're visiting in town in the off season because that's when they can have the most quality time, usually around the holidays.
Yeah.
And I always ask the question, you know, like, hey, what, like, you know, you clearly are the father of a pretty notorious person here who's accomplished a lot, failed a lot. What, like, if you had to give me like 2 things, and I do ask this question, I was like, if you had to give me like 2 or 3 things that you would like tell a parent, because I come into contact with them a lot, like the way that, not you should parent them, but just things that you should do for them, provide for them, not a single one of them comes down to like them expecting them to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
Not a single one of these dads that I've talked to has said, yeah, I knew you was going to be a professional athlete all along. Not one. So it's like, if that's where you're starting, then you're already going against, in my anecdotal experience, you're already going against the grain and what should be happening, right?
Yeah.
So I think when it comes down to that, it's, you know, like I said, I'm not qualified, I'm not a parent, I don't know. But if I was a parent, I would allow that kid to make as many decisions as possible while keeping them in the gutters of like, hey, we're going to be great at something.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, you have the expectations of being undeniable, of having a good, clear mentality with it. And then whatever that, you know, the work pays for itself at that
It does. Well, and I mean, you're teaching them things that they don't even realize. And when they're 30 or 40, they won't even know why being consistent on something just feels right.
It's part of who they are now at that point.
Well, and they'll translate this desire to be a baseball player, and then they take a bunch of personality tests that we do a lot with our companies that start to show, hey, baseball ended for me. I hit my cap at age 18 or 20 or whatever. Now I'm going to transfer all of that energy into engineering because now my brain has this engineering mind, my IQ or my personality has analytical plus a driver. And so then Josh is real big on in that. Now we're inside engineering. Now where do you go inside engineering? Are you destined to be on that management or CEO or entrepreneurial track, or where inside of there can you start to go? And it all came from, it's the same thing, that the same energy you put into baseball at the age of 14, you're now putting into engineering at age 24.
If not at a higher degree now, because you know who you are.
And here's the difference. In sports, you know, if you can't run a 4.640 or you can't throw a baseball 98 miles an hour, you just can't. I'm sorry to tell you that. You can't. You can work on it. You can get better. You can get stronger. You can get more efficient. You can't be 7 foot tall if you're 5'11". You can't grunt hard enough.
The NBA just might not be your calling.
Exactly. But in business, guess what you can do?
You can be 7 feet tall.
You can hire the person that's 7 foot tall. You can build out the people around you that have the strengths and qualities that you don't possess. All you have to do is be disciplined, show up, set the example, and create a great culture. That's the difference. You turn into a coach, you turn into a business, an entrepreneur, a leader, and then you bring in the people that possess the skill sets that are so much stronger than yours. They can go out and they can sell They can throw a ball 98 miles an hour and blow everybody away and just laugh about it and make it look easy.
Yep. And it's how you create that, too.
That's right.
So we had, I don't know if I'm allowed to say who it was, prominent MLB organization does a yearly scouting event at Chadwick's.
Yeah.
And they come in, they rent the space, they set up all their sports science equipment, they're doing a ton of research and development and stuff, and they're actually able now to quantify like the potential to throw a certain miles per hour, like how much gas you have in the tank, so to speak, based on things that have nothing to do with throwing. So like your vertical jump, deep squat assessment, grip strength at multiple different like angles and stuff. And I was talking to the cross-checker for this organization, and we talk science. He loves talk baseball with me, and I was like, so can you tell me if like a kid just doesn't have it? And he's like, we have this one test, and they sit on a computer, and this is something that I think MLB organizations are doing really well with. It's the one that I believe Mookie Betts really exceeded on, which is why he got drafted so high. Part of why he got drafted so high, he was also a freak athlete.
That's true.
And they're actually able to tell you now, like, if a kid even has the capabilities of tracking something. I think we were talking about it a while back.
S2 cognition?
It's not S2, but it's something different. It's because I remember when we talked about it the first time, it wasn't quite it. I think this is a proprietary software they've developed, but they actually can tell you, like, if they're physically talented enough. Because talent and that's just something you're born with. Like, good genetics, whatever. But he said there are times where, we don't have the conversation with the athlete because why would we, shit on their dreams? Yeah. But we know as an organization that they'll never be able to track a 102-mile-an-hour fastball.
I'm not sure you can track a 102-mile-an-hour fastball.
I couldn't track 84.
I think your brain is telling you where it should be, and it gives you an image.
Yep.
That's what I think. That's why you hear anybody that used to hit, man, his fastball would just rise. Yeah. That's physically impossible.
But the question
it's impossible. It just wasn't falling as much as the other one.
Yeah, they all fall. I already had that conversation.
Look at the engineer come out in here.
It's called what is it? The Magnus effect? Magnus
I think
effect?
I pulled up hamstring on that.
I saw some smoke.
Man, I'm tired right now. Lord have mercy.
But the question then is, how do you inject that into business as well?
Yeah.
Are there things you can do, which you're doing? Are there things you can do that kind of give you that? Okay, yeah, this is what this person's capable of, and then how do we align, put them in a system that puts them in a position to succeed before they've experienced all the BS corporate stuff, like the health insurance kickbacks. It's like businesses do that because they're selfish and they need to do some stuff with their bottom line, whereas what this is, hey, we're doing this because we know that this is going to lead to a cultural movement.
Well, and the biggest thing that you have one of the biggest things, there's always a bunch, but one of the biggest things you have to do is get people to accept and just go all in on who they are, how they're wired. Because what a lot of people do, I don't care who you are, you're so worried about what people have told you should be or who you are, and you view that as, if I'm not that, then I'm not successful.
You're not important.
I can't excel. I'm not important. That's exactly right. But here's the truth. You just look at the Bible. What's the Bible talk about? Spiritual gifting. The body, right? The body has all these different parts. And without one of those parts, we're not here. You have to have all the individual parts, and everybody fits into that. You have your spiritual gifts, right? And then you just kind of have your talents, your natural talents. Everybody has natural talents. Let's find out what those natural talents are, and then let's dive all in and own it. But a lot of people don't do that. They go through life looking at social media, which is the highlight reel for everybody who's wanting to tell you how great their life is, when in truth it's just as hard as everybody else's around them, right? But you get these kids to start executing on the things they tell themselves they're going to do. They build self-confidence in who they are. They go all in on who they are and how God made them, and then they can be exceptional. Then they'll find the fulfillment, which is really what they're looking for. What we're all really looking for is two things: peace and fulfillment. And as a believer, that's only found in Christ for me, baby.
Yeah.
But you can give people, and that's why we're talking, believer or non-believer, this can help anybody. Right? You can find fulfillment through this, but that's what you're talking to, is really creating a system for people to discover themselves.
Yeah. And
right.
It's a high level of support and accountability.
Yes.
Because Tim Tassopoulos, speaking of Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A guy. Yeah.
He was the CFO, as high as you can get. I had the opportunity to listen to him speak as a just product of being on the leadership staff at Chadwick's. He had a connection with the owner, and he drew this continuum that's really stuck with me. It's exactly what you're talking about. It's how do we apply a high level of support to somebody who is talented, because you take talent and hard work and put them together,
bro.
That's dangerous.
That's where you call an artist.
You can get alone, but on talent alone, like we know that, we see it. You can see that kid who's just gifted, and it's like, man, must be nice, you know.
Yeah.
But you take the two,
like Taylor, but opposite.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Not throwing.
Love you, Taylor.
When he threw the helmet at the person, they probably just caught it and threw it back.
Well, he missed.
We're talking
that was
about
the funny thing. He hit the wall in front of him.
But then you take that and you add that level of accountability, because he said something that was great, and it was a high level of support, low level of accountability is entitlement, and the opposite is like fearful. Like if you're just kind of stranded on an island where you have super high accountability, but no one's there to help you. Like no one's there to help you uncover those things.
Yeah.
And we look at that in strength all the time. If I don't know your current strengths, that's kind of stupid of me to go to the next step of being like, okay, well, you're coming to me for speed. Let's go lift as heavy as we can. It doesn't make sense. But you take support and accountability and you put them together. You uncover those talents. You uncover the things they're already good at, and then you inject them into a support model that holds them accountable and also has been like a proven process.
Yes.
That's when things start clicking, especially you get kids that are young.
Yeah. That's so good. So speaking of young, lifting weights when you're young, going in and exercising, I mean, does it stunt growth? I mean, that's what a lot of people believe. I don't think it does, but, what's your thoughts on lifting when you're young?
I think introducing, like what we're doing with Andrew, we're doing like kettlebell deadlifts. The kid can't pick up a 40-pound. God bless you
for that too, by the way.
Yeah, man.
Mini me.
If the kid can't pick up a 40-pound bag of groceries, we got an issue, right? So it depends on what kind of lifting you're doing. I don't have the literature in front of me. I'm very evidence-based. I like empirical evidence. I don't like the stuff that's like he said, she said. I recommend generally, like, start getting serious about it. If you're serious about sports, like if your goal is to play professional sports, the younger, because now that track is much longer than it used to be. I usually tell kids once they start, like literally body hair is one of the prime drivers of it, because you have biological age and chronological age. Kid who's 13, I mean, doesn't matter how old you are, how developed are you?
Taylor, you could have started when you were like 5.
Oh yeah, I had a beard at 3.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
So that's a good tell, because that shows me that the testosterone levels are there. For girls, it's tougher because they do grow quicker, sooner. So it's kind of, as a parent, I'm assuming if that's this question's geared towards.
I think so.
It's never a bad idea to put yourself in an environment where you can get familiar with it, know what it's about. I had that conversation with Andrew the other day, basically saying like, hey man, this is funny. Said, hey, like, there's going to come a day, and I had the same conversation with David, I'm sure he remembers it, where I'm not going to be the fun coach. Like, I'm going to be the accountable coach. I'm going to provide both support and accountability. And he immediately said, oh, look, at the clock says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I was like, I know you're listening. And he even said that. He was like,
that's either going to go 2 ways. He was going to do that or shoot me a middle finger. I wasn't sure.
But but he's to the point, he's not developed yet. He will be.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to introduce him to an experience in the place where he will also develop.
Yeah.
So that when he gets to that point, it's not like a fish out of water. Like,
That's
he already
exactly
kind of knows
right.
what to expect. And as a coach, it's my responsibility to kind of put them on the runway, taxi them out, and then when it's their time to take off, it's like I'm still flight control. It's like, okay, we got to make sure we're making the right moves so that stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the age, there's no like,
right.
It's not like you got to be 15 years old or 13 years old.
Yeah.
And from stunning growth, I don't know.
Well, I think it depends on what you're doing. I mean, you start putting a back squat on a kid and stuff like
there's
that.
Things you shouldn't do.
But our whole intent, and you touched on this the other day when you were talking about the conversation with him, our whole intent was to get him comfortable,
Exactly.
to go into a gym, know what stuff looks like, know what it looks like, know how it feels, and just create habits that when he's 30, he will not even understand why he feels better when he wants to go to the gym. Why do I even want to go there? I don't know. I'm just going to go.
Introduce him to like micro
Yeah.
like doses of mindset shifting. And then over time that develops. It's not acute. It's not an instant thing. By the time he's 16,
Taylor's
17
done a
years
great
old.
job with his kids. They all work out. And so, that kind of, because Taylor and I talk a lot about keeping our kids active and stuff, and he's done an excellent job. A lot of parents, they push so hard, their kids don't want to touch it. I handed it off to another person who I trust and does a great job because I wanted them to hear it from somebody else. Lord knows they hear enough from me. So kind of let's wrap up, and this is going to be kind of a staple that we're tinkering with on how to ask the question. With undeniable mentality, a lot of it is about creating awareness with people, about getting them to take on, and we talk a lot about harmony, which, harmony, we have it in our core values underneath excellence. And, harmony is setting expectations in each of the 5 buckets and then communicating and executing on them. And it's going to change in life. So to the 5 pillars: spiritual, physical, mental, personal, professional, from an awareness perspective. In your memories, what's the most pivotal moment that has led to, and I would definitely classify you in the undeniable mentality category of living your life, which is a long-term, don't be falling off, man. That's a perishable skill set, baby. That's a perishable skill set, man. I'm just saying. But,
yes, it is.
Just like you hold me accountable, iron sharpens iron, right? Yeah. What's one of the most pivotal moments in your life when that shift really transitioned? Now, I got to tell y'all a funny story real quick on him before this. So when Zach first came out of college, we're talking about a very, very competitive dude. I started training with him. Josh Costello was the trainer before you, and we all love Josh.
He got tired of his BS.
Josh was like, this dude talks way too much. I'm giving him to you. You guys, there's a lot of similarities. And so Zach and I start training. I start coming in the gym, and I would come in, and he's laid out half dead in front of the fan one day, with a big 20-pound vest on. I come in one time. Yeah. He's got blisters on his hands,
how
bleeding.
Did I know this was going to come up?
Bleeding. And I go, bro, how did you get that? Did you go take BP for 20 hours straight or something? He goes, no, man, I was out in the parking lot. I wanted to see how far I could walk on my hands. Gosh. Bro, it was 100 degrees outside. He burned
middle of July. What was I doing?
In Nashville.
I think I did that because I was
just for the week, But to see you transform in the man to the man you transformed into has just been a joy to watch, man.
I appreciate that.
And so, what's been pivotal? And it doesn't have to be in the last 7 or 8 years. What to you stands out?
I think everybody's got the points in their life where you're just, because of where you're at now, you're not proud of. Where it's like, man, if I could have done that differently, I would have. Looking back, though, it's like it taught me a lot. I learned a lot through that adversity. Would probably be the year before I met Lindsay. It was just kind of like in that time frame.
Yeah.
That was a little further back. That was when I was really stupid. Wasn't really learning much. But when we talk about when the curtains kind of got pulled back on all that, I always tell people, I was baptized in a Southern Baptist church, and it wasn't really my decision.
Yeah.
But I knew what was going on. I knew that I was bringing Christ into my spirit, and I think throughout my entire life, there's been things that have happened, that good, bad. I've deviated away, and then I've always felt this drawback. And maybe y'all can think the same thing. But,
yeah, man.
I think that's part of the blessing behind me getting baptized at a younger age was that, I always had, like, Jesus always had the rope on me. And he was always pulling me back, saying, like, listen, man, don't go do that, even though that does seem like it'll be a good time. This is stupid. Don't be dumb.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Yeah. So I think the last time that occurred was probably about a year or so, maybe a little longer, maybe a year and a half. We'll say a year and a half before I met Lindsay.
You guys really started dating, was it 21?
We started dating in June of 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the year before that, he and I, it was the year of COVID, and he and I were literally going out to the parks and like lifting picnic tables.
Literally doing thrusters with picnic tables.
And stuff like that just to keep working out. It was so awesome.
The C word out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Bro.
I'm not even, so this was pre-COVID. And COVID kind of like allowed me to have the time to reinvent myself, I guess, in a way of like the undeniable mentality.
Yeah.
I remember literally like just being in a dark place. Not like, relatively speaking. There's people out there that go through way worse. Sure. I'm not going to compare myself, but everybody's demons are their own.
It's your perspective, bro.
And I just remember literally getting down on my knees, getting emotional, praying, and being like, dude, what is it that you want in my life? Like, what is my purpose? To this day, I still don't really like know, but I know that it's not what that was. And I said, like, I don't have good habits, like, any relationship that I get in with a girl like fails because of XYZ.
Yeah.
And then I remember just kind of feeling this peace and comfort after that, like after I was vulnerable. And I go on this fishing trip out to Big South Fork. It's in East Tennessee, if you want to call it East Tennessee. And I'm, again,
East-ish,
East-ish.
Yeah.
It's east of here.
Yeah.
I'm just out there by myself fishing, and I, started getting these signs. Like one was God is for the underdog on the side of the road. Literally, one of the employees at Chadwick's that I know has seen the same sign. Very small, looks like a piece of white paper.
Yeah.
And this is when Lindsay had reached out to me, and she had basically initiated the conversation. The whole story, we won't go down that whole story. But anyways, the underdog was kind of interesting to me because I remember my grandfather and I having a conversation about, this was during College World Series, having a conversation about, being an underdog, because I forget who it was, but they like had no business being in this game, and they ended up coming back and winning, and it was this whole cool thing. And I said, sometimes I just feel like I'm an underdog. And then I see that, so I'm like, dude, like I don't really get signs like that, but this was kind of one of those like, wow, okay, this is in my face.
If you had broke out with like my buddy started walking on water or something like that, I was like,
it was
what
awesome.
were y'all
His hair
doing
grew
up
out.
there?
He got a beard. It was this cool thing.
Wow, that would have been a sign.
But I found it interesting that after I saw that sign, then she DMs me on Instagram, and it was this whole like chain of events that I can't like say anything other than like God was involved in this. And
God is definitely on Instagram.
He's for sure. He's just, sometimes it seems like he's allowing people to mess up a little bit, But I think it was that. It was when I met her and I kind of realized, like, wait a second, I see the trajectory of my life, like of being a good husband, being a good father, being just a good person to be around.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of initiated something inside of me that like helped me ditch bad habits, stop dipping. That was a big part of it. She didn't like it, so I was like, okay. And ultimately, like the last 3 years now have been just a trajectory that's completely different.
Oh yeah.
And she's definitely changed me for that. And I think that's kind of what it was. It was semi-recent. Mm-hmm. I can't pinpoint really any other time in my life though that was like pivotal.
Yeah.
I've obviously gone through a lot with family stuff like that, but that was one of those that was just kind of those little breadcrumbs that were left for me that kind of got me through a different door when I could have gone down. I could have made this worse for myself.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I was able to get through that on my own. But imagine like if I had a support system. I had a support system, but if I would have like really like needed one and bought into it, what could have happened? The alternative could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
So I think that would answer your question.
By the way, bro, those are some big brownie points for my girl, Cash Money Lindsay over there, bro. I mean, you just good job with that one. I mean, you got your moment, buddy, and you stuck the landing.
Yep.
And
What? But well deserved
Lindsay, he meant every word. He did not pre-plan that or anything. I could feel it. It's from the heart. Just FYI, cash money.
Yep.
But no doubt, man. I mean, the last 3 years for you. I mean, the years up to that, we had a lot of conversations about God knows what, and
also all over the map.
That's the thing that was really fun to watch. But I remember like the first time we were working out one day, and he's like, "Hey, bro," he's like, "That girl over there, man," and it was Lindsay.
Yo, she's kind of hot.
He was like, "I think she likes me or something." And I was like, "Sweet, man." And I mean, this was like, he had a few girlfriends over the time, so you think a little bit, and you just kind of watch, and to watch that transform and go into the wedding and everything else, man, I agree, because really you really pivoted. From a analytical standpoint, you've taken fitness to a whole new level.
Oh.
I mean, literally, he's got these pressure plates.
Force plates.
Force plates, my bad. And he sleeps with them. I mean, dude, and just gets all this information off of them.
Got our whole bedtime routine, man.
It's incredible to see what you've done from velocity-based training. The force plates, where you're calculating, amount of force and pound for pound for people, which can also directly correlate to weight loss. Because if your pound for pound goes up, that means you're losing weight and not...
Or getting stronger.
But typically the biggest change you'll see if you're a little bit overweight is losing fat. So... it's been incredible, man. It's been an incredible journey. It's been great having you on here. Zach's going to be at our summit here towards the end of the year. We're going to have two. One's booked for October 3rd, and the second one is Saturday, January 3rd of 2026. He'll be speaking at those to the physical. He keeps coming up with excuses on the October 3rd, but we'll get him roped in there. But we will have him on here again. Like I said, he's an expert, and it's not for any other reason that he has worked very, very hard and done the work when nobody else was watching. So where can people find you, man? On social media?
Social media, I'm kind of dormant right now. I'm going to start. I've got a whole plan there. I'm gonna make my return. It's not going to be like a grandiose thing. It's just going to be part of what I want to put out in the world.
And you and Kanye will do like a collab, I think is how
we're taking advantage of this whole Diddy thing, so.
Are we waiting for the stash to come off? Because
the stash might be here to stay. I don't know. This might be I'm thinking like a silhouette with a hat and a stash. That's just maybe my thing. I don't know.
Well, the stash plays, brother.
Yeah. Thank you. But no, like Instagram, that's pretty much the only social media I'm on. Other than that, you just gotta come find me.
What's the handle for Chadwick's?
Chadwick's Fitness.
At Chadwick's.
CHADWICKS Fitness.
Yep.
We got a lot of good content we're putting out too. So there's a lot of shifts, a lot of good things happening both on your end, our end. That's really, really exciting for me just to see how people are gonna take it and run with it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
ChadwicksFitness.com, and then
You can go on there and book a session too, can't you?
You can book a consultation.
Yeah. Consultation.
If you want to book a session.
Taylor, do you have a website for a consultation?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll work on it.
He's already got the volume, man. He doesn't need that.
Well, thanks for being on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Guys, we're going to be bringing on people like this every month to talk through the 5 pillars, to talk about what is an undeniable mentality. There'll be a lot of cool things coming out on our website here soon, from personality profiling to help discovering what fitness and nutrition really looks like for you. But as we discussed today, it's really about just getting started. Stop trying to make it perfect and just get started, because a lot of times trying to make it perfect is just an excuse to delay it. Sorry. These guys deal with this crap all the time. But thanks for joining. We'll see you soon.